This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Philly Sports Guy show. It is Monday. It's the 22nd. The days are starting to blend together. This was a busy weekend, and we got to jump right to it because there's a lot to go over this weekend. Let's start off with Friday. Obviously, everybody knows what happened this weekend. The Mets come into Philadelphia, don't have either one of their two big starters going, and they still get out of here with 3 of 4 wins. It was a challenging weekend all in all. It seemed that there were times when that it looked like it was going to be close, and then the Mets would just break it open. Unfortunately, I just have to say right at the moment that right now the Mets are playing better baseball. And that's really all it comes down to, that they just had a much better weekend than the Phillies did. It started off originally that the bats just were not around. They come out in game one of this series on Friday, and they give up. Before you know it, it's 5-0 Mets. They do score a couple of runs in this game, but they wind up losing this one 7-2. The loss is taken by. Let me get all over to this information here. Bassett with the win, 6 innings pitched. He wound up giving up 7 hits and 2 earned runs, striking out 4 in the process. And the loss goes to Aaron Nola, who just did not look real sharp. He went 5 innings, gave up 8 hits, 5 earned runs, struck out 9 in the process, and walked 1. Uh, you know, like I said, he wasn't very sharp. He pitched a lot. I mean, they got up in the pitch count pretty quickly. He threw 104 pitches in 5 innings time. That's not going to do it. He's most effective when he can go and keep an average of about 12 to 14 pitches an inning. After that, it's going heavy into the pitch counts early in the game. He usually struggles during that. So he's going to have to work on that, being more selective with his pitching to be able to get into later innings. And like I said, he knows what he's doing there. But as we get closer to September, that thought process and all Phillies fans in the back of their heads is Nola going to be able to continue to do the things he was doing this year. It's going to be hard to do. Good morning, Diana. Good to see you. Thank you for joining the show. Saturday comes and we start off. Trevor Williams is on the mound. He's actually a pretty good pitcher. His record doesn't really indicate really how well of a pitcher he's been because he's got an ERA just over 3, but he's got a 2-5 record, which doesn't really make any sense. That just means that maybe the Mets are not giving him enough run support. Ultimately, He actually pitched really well. They wind up winning game one, 8-2. Again, the loss on this one for the Phillies by uh, again. Where are we at? Where are we at? Wheeler, he goes to 11-7, 5 and a third inning pitched, gives up 5 hits, 4 runs, all of them earned, 6 Ks, 4 walks. Very unlike Wheeler. Actually, Wheeler does pretty well pitching against his former team. It, yeah, this just happened to be it. And that's 3 starts in a row that Wheeler has just not been the Wheeler that we know. And I'm wondering maybe just got a little bit of a tired arm. Obviously, this is, last year he pitched more innings than he ever has in his career. This year, he's also not had any injuries. So it's been, he's been pitching a lot. Maybe he's got a little bit of a tired arm. He might have to rest up a hair or two. There's going to be some opportunities because we're not playing the Mets anymore. This, our series, our season series with the Mets is over after the game yesterday. So maybe we could rest him up a hair just because we have a fairly simple schedule moving forward. Maybe we can give him an extra day or two rest and get him ready for the playoffs. But again, just not a very strong performance with him in game one. Trevor Williams only goes 4 innings in this game, so he didn't get the decision. The decision actually goes to Lugo, who pitched 1 and a third innings, gave up a hit and an earned run in the process, but struck out 3. And the first half of this doubleheader goes to the Mets. The second half of the doubleheader, the Phillies actually decided to play a little bit better. They get a couple of more runs. They score 4 runs in this game. It's you know they not home runs. There was not a lot of home runs until yesterday, and I feel like that the Phillies need to score on some home runs that they are have a hard time. And I've been mentioning this a few times that they have a really difficult time of getting somebody once they have them in scoring position, getting them across the plate. That the Phillies are worst in the league at 5% of getting somebody across the plate if they are in scoring position with less than 2 outs. And that's got to change if we're going to start to do better in the playoffs. The Phillies, we know that the Phillies can score some runs, but when it comes to decent pitching, the bats seem to go silent. And the problem is that they all go silent together. This game here, the pitching for the Mets wasn't the best in the world, so they were able to get 4 runs. Bailey Falter gets the win for the Phillies. He goes 6 innings pitched, gives up two hits, a 1 earned run, strikes out 3 and walks 2. The loss goes to David Peterson, who went 4 and 2/3 innings, 8 hits, gives up 3 runs, all of them earned, and 6 strikeouts. David Robertson has a 2 inning save in this game. That may have posed to be part of the reason on what happens on Sunday. So I'm going to come back to that in just a second. But obviously, there was they get the win and the split on the doubleheader, which is something that they needed. It was like, okay, let's at least get a shot to make this an even home stand here with the Mets and be able to just move on from their series. So, like, maybe instead of having only 4 wins, we could get that 5th win. Just wasn't meant to be. They wound up, or actually, they get the 5th win. Let's see if we can get the 6th. Just wasn't meant to be because on Sunday, obviously, it was a little bit of a back and forth game. The Phillies were in the lead for the most part all game long. They're up by 4, come back. They go up by another 3. The Mets come back. The Mets score 3 runs in the ninth. And ultimately, it's done by a 2-run home run that Robertson gives up here. He's the one that gets the loss here. A 2-run home run given up to Kana, who was his second home run of the game. So he was feeling it a little bit, I guess, yesterday. It's a 2-run home run that actually gives them the lead. They were down by 1 going into the ninth. That gives them a 1-run lead. Then we bring in Sir. It's his first pitch, his first time pitching in the major leagues. His second pitch gets rocked by Nimmo as a home run. And ultimately, they're up by 2 going into the ninth. We were able to score another run, winds up making it uh, 10-9. And unfortunately, that's how it ends as Edwin Diaz does earn the save for the Mets, his 28th. Trevor May gets the win. It was 1 inning pitched on that one. David Robertson with the loss. He goes to 3-1. It was his first loss, and I think his first runs given up as a Philly this second time around. So it's not that he's been pitching badly. It's just that maybe he was a little overextended. He pitched 2 innings the night before, comes back in to try to just get the save, and it actually winds up with the blown save in this regard. And the Mets wind up taking this series 3 games out of 4. So what does that mean in the grand scheme of things? I thought about this a little bit, and the Phillies right now, obviously, when you take their record, they are 66-55. If you take away, excuse me, take away the 14 losses and 5 wins that we've got, that's a 60. We're 20 games over 500. So the Mets have owned us this year, and they're the reason why we are third in this division. Had we, again, if we split with them specifically and just went, and they even win the series 9-8, our records would be a lot different. The lead would be a much smaller. Actually, at the moment, they would be tied with the Braves. So there's been a lot of this season series has gone the Mets' way all season long. And it really started with that 8-7 loss where we gave up 7 runs in the ninth inning for them to come back. I think that's propelled them in a way that they have been able to keep going. Buck Showalter has got this team playing strong, not having the dip that the Mets typically do. As Mets fans are, even Mets fans will say themselves that they are just waiting for the other shoe to drop. They're waiting for them to start to fall apart, and it hasn't happened yet. So the Mets are playing really good ball. It's possible that they're going to finish off that way. The Braves did not have the Braves wound up losing yesterday, but they wound up winning their series against the Astros 2 games out of 3. So the Braves did catch up a game, but wind up losing some ground a little bit as of yesterday. And I think it's now 4.5 back from the Mets in the division. That even that all being said, with everything going the way it has, we still are in the wild card spots and really hold that seat pretty firmly. Milwaukee right now is a game and a half behind us. They had a terrible series against the Cubs, and it seems like that they have been falling apart as of late. So I think that the Phillies are going to wind up getting into the playoffs, probably as that third wild card. The Padres are hit and miss. They win some, they lose some, but right now hold that second wild card spots, and the Braves hold the first wild card spot. And right now it's the Dodgers are first in the National League, and I think they have the best record in baseball at the moment. The Mets are second and have the second best record in baseball, and St. Louis leading the division in the Central. So it was, like I said, it was a tough weekend for the Phillies. But if there's ever a team that was going to be coming in to try to right this ship, it's the Reds. The Reds are not a very good team at all. They have a record right now. Let's see, what is their record? 48-71. So obviously, this is a series where we can kind of make back some of the ground that we just lost to the Mets by taking 3 of 4. It is a 4-game series, so we go from Monday through Thursday on this one. And today's starting pitches are Luis Cessa, who is 3-1 with a 5.5 ERA, 28 strikeouts and 37 and 2/3 innings, against Noah Syndergaard, who couldn't figure out how to pitch against the Mets, but it can go ahead against the Reds. So, and I could get into something about that. Let's talk about after he pitches against the Reds. He better throw a real gem because he had that extra day off since he was a little skittish about pitching against his old team, which kind of makes me want to shoot my brains out with this. But ultimately, we'll talk about that tomorrow after we see how he does on this start. Like I said, fireworks better be coming out of his arm tonight, for that extra day of rest. That being said, let's take a quick break here, and we'll be right back after these quick messages. There's a lot more to talk about what's happening this week, what happened this weekend. So I'll be right back. And I apologize about my voice. Trying to yell over top of 2,000 Mets fans will sometimes do that. Normally, I could just talk loud, and I'm louder than everybody else. I had to beat 2,000 fans, and I was able to do it. I was louder than them, but it did cost me my voice a little bit here. So we'll be back in just a few moments.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, get any?
And I'm only going to do one commercial today. There's a lot to go on, but I do want to tell you about I am on Cameo. And yes, I could do messages on Cameo. I know that people have been coming up to me and asking me to do a little video for them, whether at the game for their son. I made a video for Trevor Williams before his start, telling him I wanted him to lose that game. And then, of course, he came out and actually pitched 4 really good innings. But he did get the message. His father sent along that message as I met him this weekend. But you can get a message from me, from the Philly Sports Guy, under any one of the teams that I do. All you have to do is go to Cameo. Go to Cameo, search the Philly Sports Guy, find me there. You can get any type of message. And the big deal right now is that I can announce your fantasy football draft order. Yes, games, let me know when you need it by, and I'm going to go ahead as the Philly Sports Guy and draw your draft for you so that you can be sure that the commissioner's not cheating and giving himself the first pick again this year. All right, so definitely find me on the app Cameo under the Philly Sports Guy. So that being said, more sports happened this weekend as well. I'm going to go with the easier of the two to discuss right now, and that would be our Philadelphia Union. Doop. They go down to DC United, and when DC United was up here, we spanked them 7-0. This game looked to be a little bit closer initially. It wound up being 2-0 at halftime. It was that first goal. That second goal, they wound up getting on a penalty kick from Gazdag. They wound up getting a penalty in the box. They get the penalty kick and score it just as the half ends. So they're up 2-0. And then Carenza just goes off. He just goes off. He winds up getting 3 goals, a natural hat trick. They wind up winning in total 6-0 against the DC United. DC United, the aggregate score of the 2 games that they played against DC is 13-0. Soccer is not you don't typically see that many goals scored like that. But just so happens that the Union have DC's number, and they were dialing it up all day long. Carenza, actually, I said Julian Carenza had 3 goals and an assist, 6 shots on goal, so it could have even gotten a lot worse. Daniel Gazdag also with a goal and assist. They are getting themselves ready to go for the playoffs. Right now, the Philadelphia Union are 14 with 4 losses and 9 draws, making them first in the Eastern Conference. They had to get 3 points because Montreal also won. They are in second place in the Eastern Conference, and the Union are still, I believe, 4 points behind LAFC for the Supporter Shield for for the best record in Major League Soccer. It's looking like that those two teams are going to be meeting here in, I'm going to give it maybe 2 months. And I think that's going to be the MLS Championship. See who's going to take home the cup at the end of the season. But like I said, that's a few months away. We got playoffs to go through first. But right now, the Union taking care of business, 6-0 against the DC United. All those guys over there are getting strong, and I kind of expect that we're going to see a lot more goals by the Union between now and the end of the season. The other game that happened this weekend actually was on a Sunday. We had Sunday football for the first time in just about 9 months. Like I said, since I guess January when we lost to Tampa Bay, but we're not bringing up old stuff. We're talking about the new stuff. And again, as they started off the same way they started off the previous preseason game, there's not really much to talk about in terms of anything other than how the starters did. And because it was raining, they did not put Hurts out there. They didn't really do much with their starting wide receiver core as well. But that's not where I wanted to pay attention. I was paying attention specifically against the offensive line versus the defensive line on the first team. That was what I cared about most. And Cleveland has got a good defensive line. So I wanted to see how this offensive line would stack up against them. And they did pretty well. The Eagles go down in their first 2 drives, touchdown, and that's really what you want to see. You want to make sure that they're going in. Gardner Minshew leads them down the field twice. I think at one point he was 9 for 10 with a touchdown pass. Played a pretty well game. And like I said, they didn't have any of their starting that they really don't. They went as their running back most of the time. They had Boston Scott getting some carries with the second and third teams as well. So, they rested their starters, but they wind up getting the win 21-20 as the winning catch. I tell you, this guy has got a ton of speed, and I think just his speed alone is what's going to make the difference on him making this roster. Devin Allen just blew past a bunch of guys and winds up with a 55-yard touchdown pass. While the Eagles were down, they were down 20-14 at that point. They wind up getting that 55-yard touchdown pass. A nice throw from Sinnott, who's not had a really good camp, but definitely connected on that throw. And just watching the separation happen between Devin Allen and those cornerbacks, he got behind the defense and just, lit them up. It looked foolish. They were 5 yards away, by the time that he got to the end zone, and then he just reached his arms out and got that touchdown. And congratulations to him. Like I said, I know that he's been under the radar here. When you're somebody who's used to being talked about all the time, obviously Hurdles is not on the forefront of everybody's mind, but he's a great track and field guy. So, and he's been going after the world championship in hurdles, and unfortunately, just because his reaction time was 1/100th of a second too quick, he winds up getting disqualified, and he winds up going to the Eagles now. But he can definitely burn, and you were able to see that on that play specifically, 55-yard touchdown pass. Other things to kind of take note too. I was watching how the defense again wasn't really playing a lot of their starters. Some of the main guys were not in there. But the defensive line is looking strong. I mean, they literally had to double and triple team again. Davis, he's just going to be disrupting a lot of offenses long, and I'm excited to see how that works. Again, Nakobe Dean also was able to get a lot of the calls in. He's getting a lot of practice in this, specifically because they want to get him familiar with all the terminology. He was playing a little bit more into the second half, so they want to make sure he gets that terminology down pretty well. But for the most part, the main guys did not really play. Like, you didn't see Fletcher Cox out there or Brandon Graham much. Like I said, they were not really in there. They were seeing everybody else on the backside of this defense to see who's going to wind up making the team. And ultimately, we'll see how that goes. But right now, I got to say that you have to keep a spot open. You absolutely have to keep a spot open for Devin Allen. His speed is going to come into play in a lot of special teams types of situations, and I feel that especially since and I'm almost I missed to try to mention this when you watch the Dallas Cowboys game this weekend and you watch their kick returner run back 2 touchdowns and you think back on the Eagles on when was the last time they had a kick return touchdown. I mean, they've had a couple broken and stuff like that, but there's been none of recent memory. And I believe it was a couple of years ago that it happened. I think that Rager actually had one of those that he brought back for a touchdown. But when I think of those plays and how those plays can change the outcome of a game, I think that Devin Allen is really going to be worth his medal there. And just because his speed is just so incredible. And I know that they're trying to figure out who they're going to put back there. They have Rager initially still listed as their guy there. They've tried Quez Watkins. They just don't like the way he grabs the ball from a punt. But I think it could be Devin Allen's if he can just, solidify a spot on the team. I don't think it'll be very long before they start putting him back there to be the return or return punts just to see, because that speed, once he gets into open field, is just like he can turn it into that next gear and really start to take off. So it's going to be exciting to watch the rest of the camp as we go forward here. Moving forward, the next game for the Eagles is against Miami, and they're going to have, again, a dual practice this week coming up. So I'm sure they're going to have the day or two off. They're going to go right down to Miami and do that. So there is no more training camp at the Nova Care Center. They're going to go right down themselves, acclimate what's happening, get in a couple of practices over there, and then have their game this weekend. So look for a lot of reports starting on, I guess, probably tomorrow or Wednesdays. They'll probably have Wednesday and Thursday. And then I think the game, if I'm correct, is next Friday night at 7:00, August the 27th. So yes, it might be a Saturday. I don't even know. In fact, it probably is a Saturday. That being said, it's 7:00 game after the dual practices all week. And I'm going to be talking to a lot of Dolphins fans. We're going to be setting up a number of podcasts this week to be able to kind of find out what's happening down there in Miami. I have some guys that are going to some of those practices, and we'll get to see, hear firsthand how not only the Eagles look, but how the Dolphins look, as they have a pretty dynamic wide receiver over there, but they just don't seem to have a quarterback that can throw them the ball. So we'll see how things go. Again, tonight, what am I doing this week? Starting tonight, I will probably be at the Phillies game, weather dependent, as I melt in the rain. But if you are not doing anything tomorrow, just to tout the Philly sports guy a little bit, come to my living room, Dolan's Bar. And I am hosting living room trivia. So that's right. It's trivia where you get it's some Philly sports, a lot to do with Philadelphia, but the Philly sports guy runs it. And we do trivia every Tuesday night, starting at 8:00. It's a lot of fun. It's a couple hours of time. Come have a drink, hang out in my living room. We have auction items. We give away sporting, a lot of different things from, for instance, if you were at the Phillies this weekend, giveaways. I may have a couple that I can auction off this weekend. The trivia is not your simple trivia. We're not asking what's 2 + 2, who wore number 12, who wore number 12 as the Eagles in the 90s. You know what I mean? Like those aren't the questions that we're asking. We're asking a little bit more difficult. So you need to know what's going on. This is no phone trivia. You cannot Google these answers. You have to answer them legitimately. And we actually have a pretty good crowd. So come out on Tuesday at 8:00, Dolan's Bar in downtown Ridley Park. It's a lot of fun. And like I said, it's run by this guy. That being said, the half hour always goes really quickly. If you're going to try to find me, like I said, I'm going to go tonight. I'm going to be at the Phillies game. Tomorrow is trivia. Wednesday night, I'm going to miss because we are moving our NFC East show to Wednesday nights here at 7:00. So you'll be able to see it. And then, of course, we rerun it again on Thursdays all the time. So you'll be able to see it one of those times. But if you want to see it live, you can see it Wednesday at 7 o'clock this week. Again, everybody, thank you so much for hanging with me for this quick half hour, and I'll be back tomorrow to talk more Philly sports. Everybody have a great day, and as always, go Philly. Yeah. Have a great one.